My name is Amina Khalid. I'm 16 years old, and I live in Sacramento, California. On the morning of October 22, 2024, my heart stopped. For exactly 7 minutes, I was dead. The doctors called it sudden cardiac arrest, the kind of thing they describe in rare medical cases. But I know something much bigger happened. I was getting ready for school a Tuesday morning, just like any other. I was standing in front of my mirror, wrapping my favorite blue hijab, my earbuds still playing and sat vocabulary list. I remember worrying about my calculus test that weekend. My mom was up early making paratha, humming along to an older do song playing from her phone while she fried the dough, and then I fell. There was no pain, no warning. The next time I opened my eyes, I saw me. My body was lying motionless on the floor, my phone thrown to the side. My mother was screaming my name, tears streaming down her face as she fumbled with her phone to dial 911. I watched her press down on my chest, performing CPR just like the operator was telling her to. I wanted to say, "Mom, I'm okay," but my lips wouldn't move. I was there, but I also wasn't, and then everything began to fade. Not in a scary, hazy way. It was more like the lights dimming in a movie theater. The scene disappeared, but instead of darkness, there was light. A soft, white light that surrounded me like a thin fog. I wasn't afraid. On the contrary, I felt peace. First, let me tell you a little about my life, about being a Muslim teenage girl growing up in America. My name, Amina, means one who is safe and secure, but I never felt safe. Not really. My family moved to Sacramento when I was in elementary school. My dad, he was a junior cleric at a small masjid in Dearborn, Michigan, but he couldn't keep up with the new life. After a few years of working miserable night shifts in a kitchen, he left. He just left, leaving my mom alone with 3 daughters. I'm the oldest, and from that moment on, I became what was left of my father in our home. I was the one my mother counted on to keep our traditions alive, the one who had to pray on time, teach the Quran to my little sisters, get straight A's to win a scholarship and uphold the family's honor. My mom, a strong, quiet Pakistani woman, her eyes were always filled with worry. She worked double shifts at a community clinic, wearing her hijab every single day, even when people stared at her like a stranger. I was never popular at school. I wasn't allowed to go to prom, couldn't have sleepovers, and definitely couldn't post selfies online. I tried to fit in, but I always felt out of place. Some nights I'd stay up late, studying for the SATs, listening to the adhan from a YouTube video playing softly in the next room. I believed in Allah, but if I'm being honest, my faith was tired. I never really thought much about the afterlife. I knew what the Quran taught. Angels recording your deeds, the scales of merit, the paradise of Jannah and the hell of Jahannam. But inside, I just felt empty. A lot of the time, I was just going through the motions, afraid of being cut off from my community. I used to envy the American girls who went to church with their families. Their faith seemed connected to love. Me? I prayed, because if I didn't, I felt guilty. Maybe you felt like me before, trapped between 2 worlds, the culture your parents want you to keep, and the world outside where you're actually growing up. I tried to do everything right. Until that morning. It was a normal Tuesday. I woke before sunrise, performed wudu in silence, and stood for the Fajr prayer alone in my room. My mom was working the night shift, and it was just me in our small apartment. Afterward, I got my uniform ready, opened my SAT book for one more math practice test. The exam was so close. I always thought, if I just study hard enough, I can get a scholarship to UCLA, become a doctor, and save my mom from all those exhausting nights in the emergency room. But then, I don't remember exactly what happened next. I just know my heart stopped. No warning, no pain, just a feeling like someone hit the pause button on the world and I was separated from myself. When I opened my eyes, I was no longer in my body. I was high above, looking down at my own bedroom, and I was lying motionless on the floor. My eyes were closed. My face was turning blue. I wasn't breathing. I saw my mom burst into the room, still in her green scrubs. She screamed. She fell to her knees beside me, her trembling hands dialing 911. She's not breathing. My daughter's not breathing. Her voice was shattered, like a thread pulled too tight. I tried to scream, "Mom, I'm here. I'm okay." But there was no sound. No one could hear me. Mom pushed on my chest, trying to perform spar each compression. Like a punch against a wall of despair. She had saved so many patients, but now, she was helpless before her own daughter. I had never seen my mother that scared, and that's when something strange started to happen. Everything around me, the room, my mother's voice, even the daylight streaming through the window began to fade, as if someone were slowly turning down the stage lights. The physical world drifted away from me, not fast, not slow, but gently. I wasn't scared. Not at all. A strange peace washed over me, the kind I remembered as a little girl, when my mom would wrap me in a thick towel after a warm bath and hold me tight. And then, I stood up, but not on my feet. I was lifted, floating through a silent layer of air, into a space that cannot be described with human language. The ground beneath my feet wasn't grass, it wasn't sand. It was like a soft layer of light, glowing from within. There were no buildings, no trees, just an open vast space that I knew for certain could not exist anywhere on earth. I began to hear a sound. It wasn't a voice or music, but a gentle, resonant humming that vibrated in my bones and made me want to cry without knowing why. I didn't know where I was, I just knew I was leaving this world, but I was no longer afraid. I could feel something approaching, not like a person walking into a room, more like the very air around me was changing, like when you walk into a space and you just know someone is standing there even if you can't see them. Except this time, I didn't just feel his presence, I felt his love, flooding into parts of me I didn't even know I had, a love so big, so holy. I thought my heart would burst from being too full. I hadn't seen him yet, but I knew he was coming. The air around me began to hum, every particle of light vibrating in a wordless melody. I didn't know if I was standing, or floating, or dissolving into a space between heaven and my soul, but I knew with absolute certainty something bigger than life and death was getting closer. And then I heard him, not like a human voice, not like the cleric's voice or the call to Adhan I'd heard from the masjid speakers every Friday. It wasn't a booming sound, not a roar. It was all-encompassing, as if space itself was speaking with the breath of the universe. Amina, I turned, and he was there. He was beautiful beyond words, not like an old painting with a golden halo, but a living, breathing beauty, like sunlight that knew how to smile. He looked young, like a man in his late 20s, with soft, dark hair, eyes as deep as the ocean, and skin that seemed to glow from within. When his eyes met mine, I felt like I was the only person left in the universe, and it wasn't frightening. It was knowing. To be fully seen. To be fully understood. To be completely loved, with nothing to prove. His skin had a radiance, as if a light was emanating from inside him. When he smiled at me, I felt like I was the only one who had ever mattered to him. I could barely whisper, my voice catching in my throat. Am I dead? He stepped closer, so close, and said, "You are here with me now, and there are things I need you to see." When he held out his hand, I didn't hesitate. I took it, and in that instant, a warmth flooded me like a spring, rushing through my blood, through my soul, through every doubt I ever had. I felt myself melting into peace. No more fear, no more questions, just the absolute knowing that I belonged here with him forever. Then the space around us changed. We were no longer standing on the ground of light. We were on a high vantage point, like a hilltop where I could see the entire world below. I saw my city of Sacramento, the familiar rooftops, the busy roads, the schools, churches, masjids, the ballparks, and further, I saw the oceans, the mountains, the deserts, and the skies, all like a living map, breathing with light. Jesus still held my hand. He looked at me, his voice deepening. The time is coming, Amina, and I will give the world 3 signs so that my children can prepare. As soon as he said it, the world below began to move like a giant film, and I understood. I wasn't just being shown a vision, I was becoming a witness to what will be. Do you feel this as deeply as I do? I still don't understand why he chose me, a 17-year-old Muslim girl, struggling between faith and doubt, but if you've ever wondered why God would call you, maybe this is your time to listen. His voice grew solemn. The time is coming when I will allow a darkness to cover the earth for 3 days. But before that, I will give my children 3 signs, so they will have a chance to prepare. Sign 1. The 7-minute sound. The first sign, Jesus said, will be a sound, and then I heard a dot. It was like no music I had ever known. Not the adhan from the masjid, not a piano track on TikTok. It was the sound of the earth itself, as if the planet was singing. The sound came from everywhere at once. From the ground I stood on, from the sky above, from the space between the cells in my own body, the song of the earth, but also the call of heaven. This sound will last for 7 minutes, Jesus explained, and every person on earth will hear it. For those with a heart to listen, it will awaken their soul. They will feel an urgency to prepare not just their homes, but their hearts. I saw people stop in the middle of the street. A man in an expensive suit, on his knees on the sidewalk. A little Palestinian girl looking up from the rubble. In Oak Park, a group of teenagers stopped tagging a wall to listen. And I saw others, too, covering their ears, screaming, running from the sound as if terrified to face what they had buried for so long. I whispered, "What do they need to prepare for?" Jesus looked at me. His eyes held no judgment, only compassion. They need to forgive, Amina. The sound will make old wounds unbearable. Unspoken words, forgotten dreams, broken promises will rise to the surface. This is my spirit calling them back to make peace before the darkness comes. I saw a father call the son he had disowned 10 years ago. A young woman bowed her head in prayer for the first time in years because she just felt like she had to. An imam and a pastor, kneeling together on a high school football field. I wondered, if this really happens, will I be brave enough to forgive the one who hurt my mother? Or will I be one of the ones running from the sound? If you've ever been torn between what you believe and what you feel, let me know. Because I understand. Sign 2. The 3-night celestial light show scene shifted. Now I was standing in the middle of the night, but it was not dark. In the sky, impossible colors were dancing like the aurora borealis, but more vibrant, more sacred. Violet like amethyst, gold like spring sunlight, silver like dew on a desert morning. These lights will appear for 3 consecutive nights. Jesus said, they will be seen from every corner of the earth. When my people see them, they will know there is not much time left. They will go home. They will pray. They will prepare. I saw small houses in Texas lit by candlelight. A father, once stern and distant, now quietly holding his son in the kitchen, his eyes wet with unspoken words. Families in Chicago, huddled in their basements, no longer letting fear divide them. A small child reading the Quran by lamplight, while his grandmother whispered prayers in Aramaic. If you've ever dreamed of your family coming back together, do not miss this sign. I saw my own neighborhood Oak Park neighbors opening their doors to one another. Kids weren't staring at their phones. They were looking at the sky, looking up, in silence. Sign 3. 1 hour of absolute silence, and the final sign, I whispered, "What is it?" Jesus turned to me. His eyes were sad, but still shining with hope. It is silence. As he said it, everything stopped. Not just quiet, a holy silence. I heard nothing. No car horns, no fans, no air conditioners. There was only wind, water, and the sound of human beings breathing. Everything man-made will stop, he said. Cars will not start. Phones will go dead. The internet will shut down. But what I have made, the wind, the water, The laughter of a child will remain. I saw it, New York City, soundless. People walking out of their skyscrapers, a nurse in an looking around as the monitors went silent, but the patients were smiling. An immigrant family in Minnesota, building a fire and telling stories together. In that silence, I saw people begin to truly talk. No phones, no texts, just eye contact, a hand held, an apology, a prayer. After 1 hour of silence, Jesus said, "They will have exactly 24 hours. Before the 3 days of darkness begin, I felt a tightness in my chest. I thought of my mother who didn't sleep for 3 nights after my father's accident. I thought of myself, Amina, the girl who used to ask Allah if he could even hear her. If you have ever wished, just once, that heaven would answer. Listen closely, before the world goes silent." I looked back at Jesus, and I knew he didn't just want me to witness this, he wanted me to tell it. I was still trembling after the 3 signs ended. My heart had never heard something so true and yet so painful. I turned and saw Jesus watching me. Without a word, he raised his hand. We were no longer on top of the world. Now we were in an empty place, like a room made of light, with no walls, but it still felt like a shelter. He spoke, "This world is full of noise, but there is no stillness with me." I didn't understand at first, but then he raised his hand, and I saw a stream of images flow between us like a river. A little boy, praying in a bathroom, trying to hide his tears so no one would hear. A woman, fingering her prayer beads while checking her phone. A man, talking to his wife, but with a Bluetooth earpiece still in. A family, eating dinner, no one looking up. From their screen, Jesus looked at me. It is not about believing the same thing. It is not the name of the religion. It is the heart. It is love and forgiveness that is what leads a soul to me. I felt my heart vibrate as if he had just knocked on a door I had locked long ago. "So, what about people who aren't Christians?" I asked, my voice small, trembling. He smiled. Not a hint of judgment. "Whoever loves the truth will hear my voice. Whoever lives in forgiveness will see my light, no matter what name they call me." And then, like a wound being opened, I saw myself small, back in current class, the kids who laughed when I mispronounced a verse, the cousin who said I wasn't hijabi enough to be considered devout, the Arabic teacher who told me I'd get nowhere because I asked too many questions. I thought I was over it, but then their faces appeared, clear as day in this light, and I knew I had never forgiven them. I turned away. "You must forgive them, Amina," Jesus said. "Not because they deserve it, but because you deserve to be free." His voice held no anger, no force, only truth. If you are holding a grudge against someone, forgive them, because that day is coming. I sank to my knees, my hands clutching my chest. Tears streamed down my face, not of anger but of grief. Grief for all the years I had lived in the shadow of that wound. Because I had loved God, but I had never loved the way He loved me. He placed His hand on my head. "You are a light in the darkness of this age, Amina. Not because you are perfect, but because you are willing to listen." I closed my eyes, and for the first time in my life I wasn't afraid of His call. There was only stillness, and in that stillness, I heard myself being loved, even though I had never fully understood why. I don't know how long I stayed in that light, maybe seconds, maybe hours. In this place, time had no meaning. There was only me and Him, and then, like an unexpected wave, it all washed over me. Everything I had just seen, the 3 signs, the 3 days of darkness, the forgiveness, the love, the call to come home. It was too much, too holy, too sacred. I couldn't be the one chosen to bring this back to earth. I broke down, sobbing, as if my heart suddenly couldn't bear the weight of it all. "I can't," I whispered, my voice breaking. Jesus stepped closer, His gaze never leaving me. He didn't have to ask. He knew. I looked up, wiping my tears, but they just kept coming. "I'm just a Muslim girl. Who is going to believe me? I'm not a pastor, not a preacher." I I don't even know if I was ever good enough to hear you. My voice cracked on the last word. He said nothing at first, just looked at me with a sad gaze, not sad for me, but sad for the world I had to return to. It is because you can still hear me, he said softly, in a world that has forgotten how to listen. I bowed my head. His words were like an arrow through my self-doubt, but also like cool water on dry land. But I hesitated. How can I tell people what I saw without scaring them? Jesus smiled, a close, intimate smile. It is not to scare them, it is to awaken them, not to force them to believe, but to plant a seed. You just tell them what you saw. I will do the rest. I felt a warmth envelop me. He held out his hand, and again, the world changed, this time. No white light, no supernatural colors. I saw a hospital room with cold blue lights, beeping machines, and my mother. Sitting by my bed, she was holding my body's hand, her eyes lifeless, tears falling silently. Beside her, a doctor was shaking his head, his lips pressed tight. I could guess what he had just told her. There was no more hope. She is waiting for you, Jesus whispered. I looked back at him. My heart felt pulled in two. On one side, this love I had never known, this light, this peace, him. On the other, my mother, the woman who worked double shifts for 6 years, who once told me, "You are the only reason I wake up in the morning." I don't want to leave this place, I confessed, my voice almost a plea. This feels like home. He stepped closer and without another word, he simply held me. It was an embrace unlike any I had ever felt, not of pity, not of comfort. It was an embrace that said I had never been lost, that I had always been known, always been loved, even when I couldn't feel it. I know you're tired. I know the world is hard for a soul like yours, but your mother needs you. And this world needs you too. I couldn't answer. Go back, he said gently. Tell them, you don't have to change the world. Just speak the truth you have seen and plant the seed. I will take care of the rest. I closed my eyes. Part of me prayed I would never open them again, but I also knew his words had touched something inside me. The part I thought was small and weak, but now I understood it was the very reason he had chosen me. And as I felt his embrace loosen, as I began to be pulled away from that light, I heard him whisper in my ear, one last time, "Amina, do not be afraid. I am in control of what is coming." I don't remember the moment my heart started beating again. I only remember the feeling, like being thrown out of heaven and back into a body of flesh, heavy, raw, and tight like a coat that's too small. A bright light hit my eyes. The smell of antiseptic machines erupting into a frantic, off-key symphony of beeps. I didn't know where I was, only that I was back. A male voice whispered, "She's awake. Allahu Akbar. This child is alive." I opened my eyes, blurry visions of a hospital ceiling. A nurse shouted for a doctor. And then my mother. She rushed forward, wrapping me in a hug, her tears soaking her hijab and falling onto my forehead. She held my hand as if she was afraid I would disappear again. "Amina, can you hear me? It's Mom. You're back. You're back." I tried to nod. My throat was raw. I managed to rasp so softly, "Mom, I saw him. I saw Jesus." The air in the room went still. My mother froze. Her eyes went wide, not with fear, with something else. Shock, confusion, and then a sacred silence, as if a part of her already knew this was coming. The doctor entered, his hands shaking as he held my chart. I don't know how to explain this. Her heart was stopped for 7 minutes. There's no brain damage, no memory loss, no motor impairment. This child, she's not just alive, she is completely intact. He paused, as if wondering if he believed his own words. I just closed my eyes, trying to breathe. But what I felt wasn't my body, it was something deeply changed inside. The constant anxiety that used to crush me was gone. The voice in my head pushing me to study more, be better, be enough. In its place was peace, deep and whole, as if a part of my heart that had always been restless had finally found a place to rest. Mom, I squeezed her hand, everything has changed. And, so have I, she didn't answer. She just pressed her forehead to my hand and wept, crying as if a part of her knew I had come back, but not as the same daughter who had left. If you believe that miracles can still happen, I am living proof. I came home from the hospital with a heart that wasn't just whole, it was wider, deeper, as if a door had been opened that could never be closed again. By day, I was still Amina Khalid, the 16-year-old Muslim girl in Oak Park, who wore a hijab, helped her mom cook, and taught Quran to the little kids on Sunday afternoons. But by night, I became something else. Not because I had left my faith, but because he had come to me, and I couldn't pretend I hadn't seen him. I started reading the Bible. No one knew except for God himself. I hid a pocket-sized New Testament under my pillow, reading its pages. By the light of my phone, huddled under the covers as if I were doing something forbidden, I read about the women he touched, the woman at the well, Mary Magdalene, and I saw myself in them. The outsiders, the thirsty souls who didn't know what they were thirsty for. One day, back at school, no one knew I had been dead for 7 minutes. They just thought I was sick. I ran into Miss Raina, an old teacher. She was Pakistani, used to wear a hijab, and was once a hafiza, someone who had memorized the entire Quran. But now, she wore a small cross beneath her blouse. During a break, I started a conversation. At first, it was just small talk. But when I told her I had seen something holy, her eyes lit up. You saw Jesus, didn't you? I just nodded. Nothing more needed to be said. She looked at me for a long time, then whispered, "Me too. 7 years ago, I didn't leave Allah. I just saw him more clearly when I saw Jesus." We said nothing more. We just held hands in a silence that was deeper than any prayer. From that day on, we started meeting secretly every Thursday afternoon in the public library. No one knew. We didn't read aloud. We didn't pray out loud. We just opened the Bible and sat in our shared, silent solitude. She called it our sanctuary. I called it home. I started writing down my dreams, the things Jesus said, the quotes that would echo in my mind at night. I didn't know what I was supposed to do. With it all, I just knew I had to be faithful. Then the rumors started. A few friends avoided me in the hallway. A boy sent me a text. "Did you convert? Is it true you're reading the Bible?" Another girl, who used to study Quran with me, looked at me like I was diseased. The rumors reached the masjid. I heard my mom on the phone with someone. "That's impossible. She's not like that. She is my pride." I don't blame them. If I had never seen him, I would probably think the same way. I used to pray for God to save my heart from being divided. But now I understand. Sometimes the division is the path to all who are searching. I am still waiting. And if you are living in that gray area between your old faith and a new revelation, know that you are not alone. I am here. Miss Raina is here. And there are so many others quietly finding their way home. Just like me, it's been 6 months since I died for 7 minutes and came back with something I can't keep silent. I have told this story to anyone who will listen. Some call me naive, some ask, "A Muslim girl saw Jesus?" And some just quietly hold my hand after they hear it, their eyes red. To them, and to you, I repeat the 3 signs, a sound for 7 minutes as beautiful and deep as the earth breathing, a light in the sky for 3 nights that is not of this world, and 1 hour of absolute silence for the soul to speak its first real truth. They are not punishments, they are opportunities. An invitation from heaven, saying, "I am still waiting." If you have ever prayed in silence, in pain, and asked, "God, can you hear me?" This is his answer. I have seen him. I have heard him call my name. And I believe he is calling yours too. Heaven is real. Jesus is real. And he loves you more than you have ever dared to believe. I don't live the same way anymore. The things that used to scare me, set scores, what people thought of me, even the question, "Who am I?" are now just distant noise. I spend time with my mother, even if It's just making tea and sitting in silence. I texted the friend who hurt me not to rehash the past, but to forgive. I read my Bible every night, still in secret, but without guilt, only the feeling of hearing his voice again, like a lullaby from eternity. You don't have to understand it all. You don't have to believe me completely, but if your heart is beating a little faster right now, listen to it. Don't wait until the darkness comes to start preparing your heart, because I have been there, and I came back just to tell you this. He is truly coming, and he wants you to come home.